doing it in Berlin and New York is a bit easier. And great, everybody's inside. Well, that was quick. That's great. And we have a microphone there if you want to have just an extra one. You don't need to pass it all the way down. And everybody here speaks English, right? Great, because we have more English speakers than non-English speakers. So, Avital,
Yes,
are you ready to record?
it's recording.
Great. So we started. So we're not live. We're just recording it, and we're going to use the video later. So before I start and introduce this amazing panel that we collaborated and got here in less than 2 weeks, right? Something like that. Thanks to the amazing Mali and this amazing group. Ooh, yeah, a small round of applause. Thank you. I'll introduce myself in a second, and this evening is mainly about these amazing women that are all leading in their ecosystem and building communities around them and building networks around them. And my name is Mike, and about a year ago, a colleague in the world of ecosystems, entrepreneurship, it's a world that's hard to define what you exactly do, and always the title is very hard for us to handle. The name of the guy is Owen Siminyan. He started about almost a decade ago the entrepreneurship club in the Tel-Aviv University, and I was a big part of doing the entrepreneurship scene in Beersheba. First in a nonprofit, then in a small company called WeWork. I was the first community manager there, and then I worked for a big company that does financial management for startups as the director of business development. And my main focus is always business development, but I was always very much of a communal person, and I always really like to help other people, and I always try to follow my passion. I started as an accountant, moved to be a spokesman in the Knesset, and then went back to work for a nonprofit as a kind of consultant in business development, regional business development, and from there back to the corporate world to WeWork, and then to another big corporate, and now I'm creating ISCL. And what is ISCL? ISCL is International Startup Community Leaders, which is a think tank for people who consider themselves, or we consider them as community leaders in the startup world, in the entrepreneurship world, innovation world. And the reason we're doing it is because something happened in the world. The word community is a word that everybody knows and everybody uses. But in today's world, it has a whole different meaning. And it's hard for us to exactly grasp or agree about the exact definition. And I think in order to build better communities, everybody sees community as a positive thing. And I think in order to build better communities and empower people who do build communities, we have to build a stronger definition, a stronger way of measuring communities, of identifying communities, community leaders, and their impact they create. And that's why me and Owen created ISCL, International Startup Community Leaders. And in less than 4 months, we just did an event and we said, let's see who comes. And we aspire to bring people from 40 countries and about 400 people in the event. We got over 500 from 50 countries in less than 4 months, and even covered the budget, so we didn't lose a lot of money. And that was really amazing, and we're in something big. Oren went to build his own startup community called Colosseum. Anybody heard about it? So it's a startup community for people in the sports tech community, and he's focusing on that. And I'm focusing on building up ISCL, which is the International Startup Community Leaders think tank organization. We're still focusing it exactly. So about a month ago, it was in the end of October, I was invited to give a talk in Berlin in a big event called Chatbot Summit around AI and chatbots. And I connect communities in the world of AI and chatbots. And somebody said, she's here in the crowd, Dalit, raise your hand, the biggest connector. She's outside probably mingling and networking, like she always does, and that's what she does best. One of the things she does best. And she said, listen, this amazing woman, you have to meet her when you arrive to Berlin. Her name is Mali, just meet her. We met as Dalit ordered, and this connection was amazing. Mali is a community leader in heart, ecosystem builder by profession. She does amazing things with this amazing organization called W Lounge, which I'll explain a bit more in a second. And also Magda, I'm saying it correctly, always I get stage fright, which is a funds of funds, which she's now creating and building in her bare hands. And I'll let Mali introduce herself and tell a bit about W Lounge, which is also a co-host and co-sponsor and builder of this event. And then we'll introduce the rest of the panel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. So to make it short, yes, I only wanted to make Berlin my Tel Aviv. Honestly, I moved to Berlin 5 years ago. I will always take Tel Aviv with me, but I see myself 100% Berliner, and I think there is a lot of things to do there. I'm actually using our superpower chutzpah and our superpower innovation or innovative thinking to do what I'm doing in Berlin, because Germany is an amazing industry, very, very powerful. And when I was here in Tel Aviv, I did a lot of things. I built a great company that was education toys for kids. We had the R&D here in Tel Aviv, and we had factories in China. The main market was the US. So I took a lot of experience and knowledge with me when we moved with the family to Berlin. And I just used my network also from Silicon Valley, from New York, and from Tel Aviv, definitely from China. And when I came there, in business, it's called Blue Ocean. You just come there and say like, oh my God, like there's nothing like that, or there's nothing here yet. And I didn't know anyone back then. And the Soho House, you will have Soho House shortly in Tel Aviv as well. They asked me to come to speak about my career and so on. I said like, no, it's not me. But thank you for the opportunity. I will keep the slot. And then I built up something that's called Women's Influencer. And it was something that I did in New York for almost 7 years. It's called Women in Toy Licensing and Entertainment. And the board was only women, but of course the guys supported like crazy, and the industry is really led by women. And I wanted to start to do something like that, to tap into the ecosystem. Today, I have to say it was an amazing decision, because I thought it will be like maybe 20 ladies. We did it with the Soho House, kind of like launch it. We invited the members, and it was above 150 ladies. And I said like, oh my God, I'm onto something. And since then, the ladies that came, they were like the head of M&A departments, big investors, a lot of women from industry. Today, they are like my inner circle, and they are really, really friends of mine, and we support each other. We're doing great business together. But back then, it was just really building my own platform to do what I'm planning to do in Berlin.
Thank you, Mali. And thank you for helping hosting and creating this event. So now we're going to introduce the panel members. We're going to talk a bit about their experience going to the European market. And everybody here is half-half. They have a bit or a few kind of mixtures. Had a bit of US and Germany and Israeli, and German and Israel, then all over the world, and Finland and Israel, right? You came back and forth, Alisa. And Shachar, that was in Israel, in Beersheba. We actually met in Beersheba. You can tell the story. I'm always embarrassed. But we know already like 7-8 years. And suddenly Mali said, listen, I have this amazing entrepreneur, young, powerful woman. Her name is Shachar Graf. She's in Holland. She's like the hit of the scene there. And like, oh, I know Shachar, like 7-8 years ago. And she'll tell about it. But let's start by order. Noah Oron from the Bertelsmann, right? Bertelsmann. Yeah, Bertelsmann.
No one can ever.
We actually practiced it before.
Yeah, I don't think I ever spoke at a panel where people could say Bertelsmann, even though they're not like from Bertelsmann or from Europe or German. So congratulations! I'll give you a sticker at the end of this.
Yay.
So
you have the American flag, but actually you're in a German organization. Can you?
I have the American flag. I am Israeli, but I work for a German company. And we met in Berlin, even though I'm based in New York. So. Quick shortcut. I was a journalist in Israel for about 10 years, and then I moved to the US. I got a master's in journalism and an MBA, and that's how I met Bertelsmann, which is where I work today. Bertelsmann is a very big German conglomerate. It's the largest media conglomerate in Europe and the third largest one in the world, 185 years old, and basically exists anywhere in the world because we own RTL, the biggest broadcaster in Europe, 12 different countries. BMG, the music group. We own Penguin Random House, the little penguin, the largest publisher in the world these days. They're based in New York. They're headquartered in New York, but they exist all over the place. We also have an education company. We have our own VCs in China, in India, in Brazil, in the US. We have Gruner and Jahr, which is the largest magazine publisher in France and in Germany. So we're kind of all over the place. And I am based in New York with the goal of doing business development for Bertelsmann, which is always, there's always a question of, what is business development? You don't have any KPIs. What's your ROI? With the goal of helping Bertelsmann connect with new startups and technologies that are based in the US and also based in Israel. Why? Because I'm Israeli and we happen to be the startup nation, and it's very convenient and cool. And you know what? We have the best AR technology, for example. So I do that. I create partnerships, and I also take startups either from Israel or from the US and bring them to our VCs if it's relevant. So if any of you are in media, I want to talk to you. Sorry, I had to there has to be, I don't really have KPIs, so that's the least I can do for ROI.
Partnerships by the end of the night.
Exactly. I really wanted to show you one of our previous latest partnerships, but I needed to help me connect to the Wi-Fi. But no, it's fine. One of our latest partnerships, for example, I just want to give you an example of what I do. We partnered with Inception VR, which is a VR and AR company. It's an Israeli company. The partnership is between them and Penguin Random House, the book publisher. And we created Bookful, Bookful. Sorry, that's another part of my marketing pitch. Bookful, which is the first of its kind AR book library for kids. So if any of you have kids that are between 3 and 10-ish, it's a great way to get them to read again. We created AR books for kids, and you really have to see it in order to understand what I'm talking about, but I'll make sure to show you by the end of this. That's it. Yeah.
You know, Alisa, I'm pronouncing it right also for the Finnish crowd, right? Alisa. Yeah, I know. Your husband is half Finnish already. Yeah. So tell us a bit about cross...
Yeah, and Lee's also half Finnish.
So tell us about your cross-border Israeli...
Okay, so my parents are Finns. They moved to Israel. I was born in Israel, grew up, Army, University, but my Finnish DNA is very strong. And in Israel, I worked with startups as an entrepreneur and as an organizational consultant. And I think it's a bit similar to Mali, and I wish I will be Mali in 5 years. Yeah, well, Mike also. I wanted to bring the experience I had from Israel to the Finnish startup ecosystem. So we moved, me and Yoad, my husband, 9 months ago. And first I needed to learn what is happening in Helsinki. And because I grew up here and with Startup Nation thing in my head, I thought that, okay, Finland can't be similar anyhow to Israel, and in some aspects it's true, but in other aspects I found out that there is growing up very impressive startup ecosystem. One of the reasons is the fall of Nokia that made the country develop these many startups and invest in startups because they need to survive. And there are all kinds of reasons, but that after I learned what is happening there, I decided to combine this knowledge from Finland and Israel and to build Israeli-Finland connections, business connections, but also other. I work with the Finnish university to bring delegations of students to learn about the Startup Nation. I'm working as a cross-border investment consultant in a company that is, they hired me because they wanted to reach out to the Israeli market. And these days I'm also beginning to build a company that will bridge between Finnish corporates and Israeli startups. And one of the things that is happening now is bilateral agreement between Finland and Israel in 3 different areas. One of them is digital health. The second is the future networks, all that is related to 5G. And the third one is smart mobility. So I'm here also bringing my thing. And if there are companies that are in these areas, I'll be happy to connect you with. That's it.
Thanks, Alisa. And Shachar, last but not least, straight from Amsterdam.
Yeah, I got here a few days ago. Hi. Like you said, we know each other from 7 or 8 years ago. That's when I was studying in Beersheva and at Ben Gurion University, where you actually were my teacher's assistant in accounting. So we went pretty far from there. And in Beersheva, I was helping run the university's innovation center, Benji's, and running a few TEDx conferences in Israel. Maybe some of you have been to TEDx White City here in Tel Aviv. So that was 4 years until 4 years ago, where I moved to Amsterdam. I did a bit of a different approach. I moved to Amsterdam, and instead of exploring the local ecosystem, I joined a startup where we went everywhere around Europe except Amsterdam, connecting startups and investors. So I really got a nice overview of the European market from the beginning. And then after about a year, I decided I need to understand also more about the city that I'm in and the country that I'm in. So I joined a few different initiatives, working closely with the government and with the municipality of Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam. And everything was kind of related to startup investor relations. And then most recently, I'm at almost a year and a half now at Amsterdam Capital Week, which is a foundation where our core mission is to connect the Dutch startups internationally and locally through different events and programs, usually coming together throughout one concrete week in the year. And now we're kind of building the growth of it as well. So we'll see where that goes. And I definitely would like to continue and see more. Now that Amsterdam is a bit more connected for me, I'd love to see how we can connect it with Israel more and join communities. I think we can benefit from each other. And so for now.
Great. So an amazing panel. Thanks. Can we have a round of small applause for the panel? Just be a bit of your opinion. Thank you. To warm up a bit. So for the first question, so all of us more or less started our careers in Israel and worked in Israel and suddenly went to a total different environment and had to connect. When I work with companies, I always say, instead of thinking of B2B or B2C, think B2G, B2 group, connect to a group. So please, let's start with Shachar and back and forth here. Your first experience when you arrived to Amsterdam and you needed to connect and you found the first meaningful, as they say in Facebook, or impactful community. How did you find it? How did you connect? How did you tip into that community?
So when I joined, it was actually the very beginning of the startup community in Amsterdam at all. What I did was I went to work at WeWork. Yeah, and I was on the community team, and that was my way. I was actually doing studies. That was kind of my way of hacking the system. So I would organize different events and meetups and things like that, just to bring the people that I wanted to meet. And that's
Build your own community?
Yeah.
Great. So the first thing you said, there was no real community yet, so I just built my own. Okay.
Well, not that everything. It's easy to say now, of course, but yeah, but that's basically how I.
And what do you think were the skills or the things that helped you build a community in the beginning when you arrived and you to a new place with different culture?
I think it's a lot of maybe research and finding kind of who are the key people, and I think everything is about, like here, a lot of people are connected to Mali. Like you need to know the connectors, and that kind of, you grow your group exponentially that way, and they connect you to the right people. I think that's
tips, Alisa.
Helsinki is very small, so it's even easier than in Tel Aviv if you know like 100 people, you know everyone. I'm lucky because I speak Finnish and I have family there, so you begin from these people. But there are a lot of events happening there, very social events. That's I think one of the problems in Helsinki and that's I think one of the things that we've been talking a lot with Mali, that there should be also events that are more not only social but bring like real outcomes. So there are few entities in Helsinki that if you connect with them, you get to know many people. We've been talking with Arona that Helsinki has been changing a lot in the last like 10, 20 years. It used to be very closed society, and today it's much more open, much more international, and they're willing to get people from outside because now they know what's the advantage with bringing diversity to the not only startup ecosystem, but they are even more open than bigger companies to that.
Mali, you did that specific, very clear, defined, was already a brand and everything community. That's really interesting, just coming out of nowhere in Israel.
Before I will answer you, I have to tell you that we actually raised this event because it's an opportunity. It's Christmas time and it's unbelievable, but all of us are here.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Like, it's really rare because we met in Amsterdam when we were speaking like daily basis. We met today, first time, but actually we're speaking over German person, I think, introduced us. Yeah, and Noah, of course, we met several times, but it was like, okay, guys, we are here, and a lot of Israelis coming to Berlin. Amazing startup. We open the doors for them. We support them. We're using all the local network, and we wanted to be here and to support you from here. So please, like, you know, I always say that to the German, but like, guys, we are in Israel, so like, please jump into discussion, ask questions. We are really here to pick up our brain or our network or our whatever experience, because the concept is, I think, not to speak about us, because, you know, W Launch in 2019 will going to be like the first year that we're actually going global. We are like super strong in Germany, maybe even I would carefully say that we are like the most powerful network today in Germany, working with the government and venture capital and all the corporates and so on. But eventually it's people. And, you know, we're speaking with Noah with collaboration. We're speaking with Elisa about collaboration. And definitely there's plans to 2019. So this is how we do it. And of course, everything will come eventually to Tel Aviv as well. But actually, we are not from here. We are like working there. The people are there. My team are German and global. And we're really here to support or to help you. So we would like you to feel like a salon.
So if I didn't say in the beginning, and you're totally right, maybe I missed it. So we're going to have a Q&A. We're going to finish this introduction, have the do's and don'ts about in your culture, and then we'll open to discussion. So already now, usually Israelis are very shy. Start preparing your Q&A. So we have really good questions, thoughtful questions. Try to be gentle. And but we really, the people here, everybody came here in volunteering and even invested in this event. So jump in once we start the Q&A in about 5-7 minutes. Noah, you want to talk about your community?
I actually, communities, I want to first understand who's in the room. So how many of you are people who came here because they have something to sell? Like a startup, or you have a company and you're trying to sell. You came here because you want to sell something to the European market.
I'm single.
That was my next question. Okay.
On an Israeli husband?
I'm just like, okay, so I guess, how many of you are community leaders, either here, somewhere else in the world, or within a company, or like a big company, community leaders within a big company? Okay, and I guess like tapping into the European market is interesting because you also want to create communities within the European market, or get your community to speak with the European market. I guess that's the reason why you're here. The other reason could either be because you like olives, you like Mali, or you like the wine outside. It's the only other reason to be here. Okay, because I wanted to understand. What was the question initially?
So you moved from Israel. Did you live in Germany and you just moved to the U.S., right?
Yeah,
so your communities are in New York mostly.
In New York and New York and Berlin. Oh, how do you get to
create your own community? Because I feel like I know Noah like Facebook and LinkedIn all the time. But like, we never met and never really spoke before we started organizing this event. So please tell me about the network you built. And if, by the way, the question I like to ask, is it the network or is it the community? Or like you connected also in a deeper way than just, you help me, I'll help you, but do you have a deeper connection than that?
Okay, so now I understand why I asked the question that I asked you guys initially. Sorry, thank you. I thought about the question. Anyway, the reason why I asked it is because there's a difference when building a community from these two perspectives. There's building my community as a startup or as I am selling something. I want to build my community in a certain market because I want them to buy my stuff. The other reason is I'm building a community in a specific market because this is what I do. I'm a community builder and I'm building a community for the sake of the community. I don't care who's in the community. They have to have something in common. They have to be interested in innovation or interested in, olives. But I'm building a community for the sake of the community. When I first moved to the US, I wanted to build my community for the sake of building my community because I came there alone and I wanted to build a community of people that I know so I won't be depressed. And so the first thing to do as an Israeli, it's the easiest thing. And I think that this is the one thing that is extremely beneficial. And if any of you are Israelis, you probably know this. There's the strength of the Israeli connection. You get to anywhere in the world. The first Israeli you meet is your best friend immediately because you're both Israelis somewhere in the world. And I think that taking advantage of that is huge, whether you're a startup or you're a community builder. It's huge. But in Hebrew, we say aliyah v'kotzba. Please, someone translate that because I can't.
An elevator with a splinter in it.
Okay, I'm going to say and vegans, please don't hate me. It's like vegan macaroni and cheese. Like it looks really, really good, and then you understand that it's like not real cheese. There's a problem with going to the Israeli community, like having your first step being going to the Israeli community, because then you get stuck in the Israeli community, and then when you're trying to either sell your product or create your community, you end up creating a little Israel somewhere in the world, and that's not beneficial. Because Israelis don't like spending money on stuff. So if you're trying to sell product to other Israelis somewhere in the world, they're not going to buy your shit, and there's no point. I didn't say.
How do you tap?
So the first thing and the first step is go to the Israelis. That's the easiest thing. Very, very easy. But then become really good friends with these Israelis and ask them, where can I go or which events can I join that don't have Israelis in them? Go to these events, try to look for the one or two people, even within these Israeli events, that are not Israeli, and become their best friends, even if they're the plumber at the event. Become their best friends, and that's how you get to know new people. And from my experience, it's mostly about people. I mean, the people who got me the most beneficial connections in the US are people that I just spoke to as people. And I think as Israelis, especially, again, if you're a startup and if you're trying to sell a product, what I see mostly when I work with Israeli startups is they come up to the German big CEO and they're like, hey, what's up? I have this company. This is really cool. You got to buy my stuff. You want to work with us? We're two people in a garage. And then, that's the immediate reaction of any, whether he's German or Finnish or Dutch, it doesn't really matter. They're just shocked. They don't know what you're talking about. The last thing they want to do is do business with you. So when you're trying to, this is what I'm saying, there's a difference between building each community, but I think that the secret is to, especially again, if it's a new culture, get to know the culture very well. Get to know that one person. I don't care what they do, but get to know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people within a certain country, or get that Israeli who's the connector, and thank you for mentioning that, who's going to help you get in touch with them. But when they do put you in touch with them, don't do fadichot. Like, don't, sorry for the wording, like, don't embarrass them. First of all, understand that there's another person. I know that as Israelis, we start talking and immediately it's like, okay, value. Extended. What can I give you? What can you give me? 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 But it doesn't always work, and especially when you're trying to build a community, I feel like it's I've learned over the years that first of all, it's getting to know the people and appreciating the introductions that you're getting from other Israelis, and only then moving to the business style community that you're looking for. Sorry if this was a lengthy one.
No, it was a very good and on point one.
I have to tell you, like, my experience is super different. Like I never worked with Israelis. Like in Germany, it was totally different because like it's not Israelis that I will work with them in Israel. So why working with them there? And okay, but I met Luis, which is Or. But they are amazing Israelis, and it's coming. And I have to say that we have amazing Israelis investors also coming to Berlin right now. But I'm in Berlin for 5 years, and it's changing. It's growing super fast. Like if Israel is startup nation in 20 years, Germany will do it in 5 or 7. But you know, sometimes we have different hats. Like, you know, we push Germany, we change the ecosystem and so on. But I did it different. Like in some point, the ambassador came to me and said, like, "Are you sure you're Israeli?" And so like, absolutely. And so like, take me with you because like you're doing so many things that are not politician. And yes, we are super good in innovation and the mindset and so on. And we are leading things in the world. And this is the best, I would say, ambassadors that we can be through the business. And this is my connection to Israel today. It's through the business. It's speaking and in bringing great investors, bringing great startups, amazing things that sometimes building them like the local company to get a public money and to get the real good things in the German industry that you cannot touch if you're not local. But from my own experience, only when I was like really strong, then the Israelis came. Then I opened the door for them. I really built myself as a local because I believe that the place you live, you have to be a local. Like speak the language, understand the culture. You know, there's huge companies coming from Israel and say like, Mali, can we have a coffee? So at the beginning, I had a lot of coffees. And you see like, yeah, I need someone to work for me here. I will give him money and I will tell him what to do. Like, no German will work for you like that. They are not hungry. They have everything. You have to be liked. You have to have the right approach, you know. So I told him like, come on, take off the jacket and start to know the market. And it's journey that we all need to understand. When you tap into new culture, it's a new culture. Even if you know the language, it's different mindset. It's different robot, as I always said. So for me, it was really different. But New York is not Berlin, you know.
Exactly.
I have to say something. In Helsinki, there are no Israelis. There are maybe 5, and all are here. So you have to work. Yeah. So you have to work with the local.
So what's your do's and don'ts when you came to Helsinki, or like, because you had a lot of Israeli background, like even though you're very Finnish, you were raised here, grew up here, and only 9 months ago really moved and started working in Helsinki.
I think that the most important gap, and it's relevant to everything when we live in Helsinki, is that it's the pace, because you're used in Israel to the like if you don't get an answer after 2 hours, it begins to be like weird, and in Finland it can be 2 weeks, and it's a gap that is mentally very, very different because it affects all your life almost. Because okay, how do you react if you don't get the answer after 2 days? Even you can't like push it because the Finns, if you push, it's okay. They won't want you. It doesn't matter what's the value that you want to bring them. So I think that's the main thing.
If it's July, it will take 2 months.
And if it's Christmas, it takes a month. And there are so many things.
So such a culture difference.
Yeah.
Can I add? Amsterdam is Netherlands is the same, and I think actually most of Europe is probably very similar. For me, the biggest thing I think was in the beginning when I started, and you see in the offices like we're working at WeWork, you see at 5:30 everyone shuts their computer, goes home. Fridays, at 4 you go, you have a beer, and it's okay. And and in the beginning I was judging it. It was like my American Israeli mind looking at them like, you're wasting my time. But actually they're in, like, it's also a work-life balance that they prioritize, which is kind of nice. But I think
for a do, as an Israeli, you can definitely take advantage of this with outworking everyone, and it shows and it works. And another gap for me, Netherlands is really known as an individualistic country, and you can see that also with the communities. So communities are very transactional still, and they're not that natural and organic. But then again, here being an Israeli, and you can easily be the connector, the person that brings people together, that asks, can you connect me with this guy? It's not that they're against it, but they won't do it on their own. So if you can get that out of people, you can definitely get ahead, I think. So that's
amazing. So last question before the Q&A, so get ready. It's an open question, whoever wants to answer. Did you ever in your, and maybe you're not long enough in Helsinki, but build a culture that was a mixture of the culture of Israelis, fast-paced, and you managed exactly to put find the midway, between being very pushy and pacey and creating a new community, a new culture. And how do you create a new community culture that's exactly the way that can put the best of both worlds? The fast-paced chutzpah, getting things done, with the culture, doing things correctly, doing them precisely. Any of you have that kind of communities can say if you created or maybe changed the culture in the communities you work in.
I have to tell you that, first of all, when I raised company in Israel, and I did a lot of things in between, like lecturing universities and volunteering and so on, I worked 24/7. Really, because this is who we are. You work 24/7 because almost no vacation, actually no vacation. And when I came to Berlin, all the school systems and all the system pushing you to take vacation. There is a word for that in German. It's called Urlaub. Like you have to go to vacation, or what are you doing in vacation? So actually, I learned to have a balance. And you know what I've learned? That even if they're not answering in 1 week, I will get the same goal, and I will get there not less than I was in Israel, but I will be stronger, and I will be calm, and I will never be stressed, which is crazy to understand. It's crazy. So I really changed a lot, and I have to tell you, but yes, I'm super Israelis. But because I'm fast, and my team works very fast because this is who we are, I think that's the way that the corporate started to trust us. Because yes, we are local, but the mindset is super Israelis. Yes or no, or answers or presentation or whatever, we'll get an answer very fast. And I think that was the point that we get the trust. Ask Mali, you will get an answer very fast. It started to be like that. And then I understood, even it was nothing that I understood from the beginning, but only when they started to be very close to me, they told me why it's so different, why we get the budget and so on. So you understand that we have our own positive things, but it's only from experience. So not pushing, it's really not Israeli, but actually it's great value to combine.
Actually bring your culture, but don't impose your culture on others. I think that's maybe the main point that also came from what Alisa said, and also what Shachar said. Exactly that point. Anybody else wants to give his view on how she did it?
I want to give my view not with a specific culture created, but mainly with the product. This is where my marketing page comes in. I connected to my own to my phone eventually because I gave up this. So this is Bookful, you guys. You can download it now if you want or not, but download it please. I don't know if you can see it right now, but what we're creating. We are creating a first of its kind AR book library for kids. So I don't know if you can see it, but these are all books that belong to Penguin Random House, our book publisher, belongs to Bertelsmann, and they're all created by Inception VR, which is an Israeli startup. So quickly, what happened here is that we took this really innovative Israeli startup, fast-paced, blah, blah, blah. Of course, it's not working, it's not really connected. And we had to connect them with a book publisher. And the book publisher, as you can think, is a very big, corporate, slow, not just American, but,
all European. We worked with the UK team and the US team, and there's an Israeli startup in the middle. And the Israeli startup wakes up every morning and they're like, we want to work, we want to do it fast, we need to get stuff done. And the US-based big corporate and the UK corporate are like, wait, we got to ask this guy, wait, we got to ask that guy, wait, this guy wasn't in the meeting, hold on, we got to talk to that guy. And it drives both sides nuts. And the mixture is interesting here, and I think that the solution is, I'm supposed to be the middleman, so I'm supposed to explain to them while we're moving and to explain to them that we gotta go, we gotta move fast. And I think that it takes time. I mean, this thing happened, it took us a year to launch it. I mean, this could have happened really, really fast if we didn't have, the big corporate, but it could have been crappy if we only let the startup do it and had crappy stories and we didn't have good books and it wasn't really approved by all the legal people. And I think that this is one example, and I'm sure it happened to you guys as well, and it happens all the time. And I feel like, for me, being that middle person, I feel like this is my job to make sure that these things are happening and that both sides are happy. The solution, for me, is based in the US, wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and talk to the Israeli startup and get them to calm down and everything is fine. And we're working on it. And make sure that you talk to them every day, even though you know that it takes time to get that email. It will take you a week, but talk to them every day. And on the other end, go to the corporate and be like, look at what we created, and get them excited about the stuff that you're creating, and tell them, the startup can create this in 1 day and this in 2 hours, even though it's not true. All you got to do is just bring them this and bring them that. And they would love to create this and to create that, really show them stuff. I feel like showing corporates that you're working, that you're building, showing them examples is something that gets them excited. And when you get them excited, that might be when you're going to get that email earlier than expected. So kind of being in the middle.
Actually, I would add to that because recently we're working a lot with the German government. I was even in New York in delegation when the Bundestag, they took us as an investor to collaborate between Berlin and New York. It was crazy for me. But I've learned a lot how to be a German, like we have the money, we don't need the New Yorkers, and the New Yorkers are like pushing. It was different. And but we're working a lot with the government, and it's called Wirtschaftsministerin. It's kind of like the Minister of the Economy. And she said something very, very interesting. She's one of my best mentors, by the way. But she said, like, you are the Israeli, you go getter. Like, you're doing things super fast. But we are the German, we have the infrastructure, we have the industry. So together, we can win everything. And this is how we see it. This is my job here today, to tell you that there's a lot of things, there's a lot of programs that keen to have Israelis in them, and the German government building a lot of things like that. Also the corporates, accelerated Techstars and so on. But also it's called Start Alliance. You can Google it. We are having 4 times in a year. Every time different topic, different industries. In November we had the healthcare, and we're collaborating with 10 markets, 10 cities. Startup coming to Berlin. Everything covered by the government. We're showing them the top investors, top ecosystem, and so on. And actually, most of them going back with a different product. Great collaboration, amazing pilot with BMW. We did already Continental. This is a great access to the market as well.
Shachar, it seemed like you really wanted to say something.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think all of it really also comes down to understanding what the community, where you are basing this community, like Mali said. The Germans, you have to understand who they are versus the Finns versus Americans, for sure, completely different. And then I think that's the base, and then you can figure out kind of where your pluses are, and kind of, for me, definitely I learned the work-life balance a little bit, so I'm a bit, like, the stress is not there anymore.
Bits of the Dutch, because everybody knows the Germans are, I don't know what the Americans. But...
Yeah, so the Dutch, what's nice, similar to Israel, they're very direct and to the point, no bullshit. So actually Israelis would be, I think, very well off there. But then the difference is the more space to themselves and more individualistic and things like that.
but then I think, I mean, for me, even the smallest thing of working during Christmas, that's already something you can do in Europe, and you know, everyone doesn't understand how you're getting all these things done, but it's just little things that you can understand kind of how to show your strengths when balancing it with the local.
Something quick about the Dutch market, just to add. So RTL is all over the place, and our most fast-paced, quickest moving branch out of the entire RTL group is RTL Netherlands, because it's so small and so innovative. The Dutch are very innovative, and I think that they're very similar to us.
Yeah,
that matter. Fast-paced, willing to try new things, to test new things. For me, getting a POC into RTL Netherlands, I get it much faster than in any other group in Europe.
Actually, when we met in Amsterdam, we were there like with my partner Carolina for meeting a huge fund of fund. They're also New Yorker, but they're also in Hague. And I mean, if Israel is overrated, so it's underrated. It's amazing what's happening there. This is why we're tapping into the Amsterdam market, because they are like super innovative. Everyone speaks English, and it's super, super easy to communicate with them.
Great. So questions now from the audience. Anybody came here all the way? Most of you came to sell according to Noah's survey. So anybody
Please
wants
sell.
to ask? Yeah. You?
Okay.
What's your name? Can you stand up so we can see you where you're in like the dark for us?
Or tell us who
Spotlight.
you are.
Yeah, we have
I can
extra
talk.
mic.
It's okay. I have a lot of voice. You're doing fantastic things.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm from Jerusalem. I'm not here to sell anything. And my question is not exactly in any of your areas of expertise, but it's related to community. So I'm just wondering, 5 years in the future from now, what do you think is the face or the landscape of social media post-Facebook? 5 years post-Facebook, let's say.
Good question.
I would say that 5 years from now, it will be not as social anymore. It will be very focused on business, which means people will be very direct, like cut the bullshit. And we see that already. Actually, W Launch is very not social. I mean, the social is obviously, but like very direct, and you meet the right people. And I think there is too much events. Like in Berlin, you can go every evening, like for 2 events. So you need to kind of like do some kill the noise. And I think that community managers or leaders will work very hard to show their value. It's not only gathering people together or whatever, catering drinks and so. It will be, okay, what I'm getting out of it. And I think that will be really the focus.
So first of all, I think you were very quick to say that post-Facebook. I'm not sure if there'll be a post-Facebook era so quickly. You know, people said when there were paper newspapers, you know, called newspapers, people, oh, the digital era, now we're going to have everything's going to be digital, and nobody will read a regular paper. And all we saw is just, we didn't see almost any decrease, not a major decrease in paper and newspapers, and we just saw a new vertical that has more people reading this and this and that. And I think Facebook is a voice and a social network of a generation, and it already understood it. You see, they acquired Instagram, and they acquired other companies, and they just understand that they need for every layer of the generations to buy a different layer, a different social network, and just cater to the generation and grow up with the generation. And exactly that's why I agree with Mali. It's spot on. It will change because of the generations that used to be 20 when we started Facebook, when we were on Facebook. I'm more or less Mark's age. I have still a lot of work to do to be in Mark's shoes. But, you know, we were kids and we want to have fun and want to show photos. Now we want to have groups. Now we have business groups. Now we want to create value. People here that we have Rafi, right? Great. From the CLC community leader circle of Facebook, they're already investing back in the communities as grown-ups, as professionals. They don't see them just as kids playing. They see them as professionals and invest them as that kind of people in social media. So
I have to add to that. Actually, Rafi came to me in Berlin last week, it was, and we actually met in Facebook. And the first question from the guy from Mexico, like, you don't have a Facebook group for W Launch? So this is my answer for you. No Facebook. Sorry, Rafi. But actually, what I did with W Launch, it's actually, you cannot find it. It's people that, inviting other people, which means it's a closed club. It's invitation only. And in Germany, that's the code. Like, we are partner in the Capital Club Berlin and so on. It's kind of like prestige. That's the way to take the right people. Like, we are sitting in Google, and we're Google by a reason, we can do it in another places. So all comes together, like how you brand it. And I never send a newsletter. I never send a selling something. It's only value what you bring. Like investors from Tel Aviv coming who wants to come. We were doing the Creator Awards. We want to put the female founder. We brought Bauman. We brought eBay. So like it's only giving. That's it.
Great answer.
Okay, another question. Can you stand up?
My name is Yoav. I'm doing in HR tech. We're selling and discussing the HR tech role. I'm not anyway, somebody
I
here
hear you
can
with the
hear me?
video.
I prefer without.
Okay.
If I may. Thank you. And my question is, okay, we succeed to penetrate France. So it was our first country. Now we penetrated Belgium as well. And we're looking to penetrate other countries in Europe. And what would be your recommendation regarding using a local partner or distributor, or to work direct? So like to get my own my own salesperson over there, or to do it by myself. What was your question?
What is the product? HR, okay.
HR tech, SaaS. You want me to elaborate?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's
Elevator pitch. You have 10 minutes.
okay. I just thought they didn't come to hear me. They come to hear me. But it's a skill optimization platform. So we're mapping all the skills of the people in the organization, all the positions, and we're able to customize knowledge to each person. So learning content, as well as potential positions in the future in the organization. So like what will be their progress, like plan their progress inside the organization.
Okay, that's a good elevator pitch.
I have another question for you. Why did you penetrate? You said you penetrated. You're in France already?
Yeah.
And you're going into Belgium right now?
We signed our first contract in Belgium.
Correct. What was the reason why you chose France to begin with?
Because of the regulation. So in my field, they have, like we have here, Keren Emanut.
Trust.
No, not Keren Emanut, sorry, Shtalmut. That's too hard. Yeah. Anyway, they are allocating money specifically for education. No, it's not a BC. Anyway.
We have a tax consultant.
Yeah. Anyway, they have budget allocated for education only, and they can use it only for education of employees. So this is the reason why we started over there. So I've already budgeted to tap into.
Okay. Which is, I think it totally
Perfect.
makes sense. And I guess you've looked into other markets within Europe who have the same type of regulation or the same type of, it's not really regulation, it's more like the same type of help from the government or governmental help or
More like
institutional help.
It's social economy.
Exactly.
Basically support different kind of training through different kind of in the.
I mean, if this is, because it sounds to me like it's crucial for your product, and I assume that you looked into other markets who are doing the same, or because there's one thing that I've seen across Europe, and I don't know if you guys would agree with me, is that if something happens in a specific country in Europe and it's like a social thing, a governmental thing, there's probably another country doing exactly the same thing. And it's kind of like across something, you can just find which bridge is it that, and I don't know if you've done your research about that yet or not, because your question was which country should I tap into next?
No, my question was, should I work through a channel or a distributor, or should work directly by myself? Like, you would
It's a
recommend
SaaS, no? It's a SaaS. You
It's
said
a SaaS
SaaS.
solution, yes, correct.
I would say do it yourself first, and then if the market is big enough, then get a local person. But see where you're getting the traction from first. Then only after you get a big client somewhere, 2 clients somewhere, and you can't fly on your own anymore to meetings, or video doesn't work anymore.
Language barrier, cultural barrier. I'm still Israeli, that way I can be polite.
Yeah, how did
Exactly. So France was
How do you manage to move around?
We tap into And this is where
People do.
Friends are the hardest to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you made friends. And you
You got friends, yeah, no.
like,
Tender, okay.
Tender.
Tender.
We found a tender of a big company, and we just were rude enough. We said we're super experienced, and we want a tender.
It's just great.
But you had some kind of like someone who speaks French, I guess.
Yeah. One of the founders speaks French. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that if you succeeded there with the language barrier, at least in Finland, everyone speaks English. I guess that's
Personally, also I think that there's a lot of countries that the more bureaucratic it is and bigger organizations, you might actually, I mean, what I see in the Netherlands at least is you a lot of times do need a Dutch speaker. So I think you need to figure out which country you're tapping into and how it is. Like there's like France for sure, I usually need someone local. And then I would think, so if you're going into Belgium, you can take advantage of Belgium and its connection to the Netherlands, and with the French you can access also helps you with France. I'm guessing the other way around, it goes to Germany. The countries can also kind of be connectors for you, and they can help you gain access to other countries.
I want to add to that. First of all, if you would do it in Germany, you will do it all over Europe. Because Germany is a very hard market. And HR right now, it's one of the hottest topic to invest right now. We are actually in W100 building with a tech company tool because people don't know, like as an investor, we don't know how to screen the team, and we need another tool for that. But type into Stepstones. Have you ever heard about Stepstones? So it's a huge company from Berlin, very, very successful. It's the biggest investment in Axel Springer, and they are acquiring a lot of startup that touching the HR right now. And it's very, very interesting what's happening in HR right now, because we did kind of like several events with Google, eBay, and Palmer, which is kind of like the biggest corporate for like health insurance in Germany, talking only about that, like how you screen the team, how you build the team, all these topics. They are so-called HR topics, but it's kind of like in Google they call it employee happiness, and a lot of things that it's really amazing what's happening there, and there's a lot of tools in this topic right now. So Germany, it's very, very interesting market for that, for you right now.
And may I add something? In Finland, I know that it's in other countries also, all the aspects of finding talent is very challenging. So I think that you can, yeah, it's everywhere. But so I think that maybe you can like attack it from that angle, and then it's really relevant for all the countries.
Can I only add something to this?
I'm happy that my question was very good. So
No, we raised actually different topics in that aspect. I'm living in Finland for 15 years, dealing with different kind of businesses. I have to disagree with you, I have to say. I do not think that if you want to export your maybe product or system outside, you have to have a local partner that knows
you're
the
talking
market.
specifically about Finland.
No, I'm speaking about all over Europe because I'm coming from Europe, dealing with Europe. I'm not speaking about the United States, please forgive me about that. But I do tell you that not knowing the European market, of course, I know European market is a huge target. Of course, you have to customize it per country, but not knowing I'm not speaking only about the language. English is perfectly understandable, but also not knowing the culture, how to do it, then it might be 50% failure, not because your product is bad, but because you don't know the market or the due diligence is not correct. So I'm a bit disagreeing. I'm sorry.
This is an amazing, like a really good point.
I think to tackle it from that angle, to make it as successful as possible, use locals. You can
local partner or
local
employee.
Exactly. This is. Thank you for saying this, because I'm thinking, how many people do you have in your company?
What?
How many people do you have in your company?
12.
You're 12?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you about your MRR right now, but 12 is. How long have you been around?
We're a year and a half.
Started selling from that.
We have like our first customer is 8 months old. Like we sold after a year, less than a year.
Okay. So, because and that's a really good point. There's a. I agree with you. You got to have. I mean, if you decide that I'm going to have my one person in France, you got to have a French person there.
You cannot go to the German market without having
A German person.
Huge
Okay.
one.
So
But you're-
that was the
Huge
question. That's
market.
perfect.
Not understanding.
Perfect
And
answer.
second thing, is even from your perspective as an Israeli company, you not only having a local partner, you also have to understand the cross-cultural difference between what you speak, how you translate it to English, and how it comes from a German point of view speaking English, which makes it completely different. How we took, like, I'm an Israeli, I look like an Israeli, I live in Finland for 15 years. It took me years to understand exactly what Alisa was speaking about. How is it even possible that in the business market to get an answer after 2 months? It's just impossible. But it is possible. So it works.
And thank you for that. Just the only because you were asking about which, again, when I go to a new market, how should I do it?
Specifically you.
Yeah, it's just that, once you decide I'm going to go for Germany, take that German to help you out. It's just that the pre-phase of before I decided Germany is where I'm going to go is kind of get the sense first, see if there's some sort of interest. If you haven't done your due diligence, or like if you haven't done your research yet and you're getting interest from some sort of a market, try to test where you are, like before you hire someone there right away. That was my point, so thanks for
I will
clarifying.
add on that, you have to play the local play. You have to be local. Like as a German, I would love to kick you out of the market. Unless you're a local player.
That's everywhere, by the way.
Exactly. So you have to play a local. Like if you ask what is W launch, it's definitely Berlin, and no one will connect it ever with Israel. But of course I'm Israeli, so like people that knows me, of course knows that I'm doing a lot of things and support the Israeli market. But we are playing local, 100% local.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your answers.
Another question? Last.
Yeah.
The guy in the back, right?
You mentioned a little bit about designing W Lounge as a club versus a community.
Just need a place for club.
You mentioned that designing W Lounge as a club versus a community. If you can elaborate a little bit more, and all of you, what is your perception nowadays, clubs versus communities? And also with the concept of value is a vague concept. What are some frameworks, models, or stories that's like, how do you deliver value? What is value rather than like chunk of money?
Very good question. First of all of these ladies are ambassadors for W Lounge. So like, we're like a gang, okay? Like I love it. Like in Germany, they call it like Molly and the Mafia. Yeah, it's actually like that. We support each other like crazy. We open doors like we did with the miracle, like that you probably saw all over in like 1 week. Crazy WhatsApp, and that's it. The value, to go for the value, it's I will give you an idea, okay? If you're like a startup or like venture capital and you need to grow. So there's no startup that can grow without an ecosystem, with people, with corporates, with experts, with politicians, everything that, sometimes it's regulations, sometimes it's whatever. You need people to support your product. You need people to open doors. So maybe because I built companies and I know how much it's hard, and I wish I had Mali when I started. So I just did the same. And for example, 2 weeks ago we did an event. We call it, it was very special. We call it like Media, Diversity and Tech. Because one of the MD, Handelsblatt, it's the biggest can I say Wirtschaft? It's the biggest finance. Yeah, it's a biggest finance newsletter in Germany.
MD?
MD, it's
Media.
like the come on, what is MD? It's the CEO, okay? Like the managing director. Like come on, yes. So
everybody now knows how to do managing director.
Oh God, it's not German. It's not German. So she's an amazing lady. She's also one of the ambassador, and And she said, like, Mali, in the media industry, there's a problem. Like, there's no diversity, there's no woman there. And Double Lunch, by the way, it's very, very keen to put women up front of businesses. Most of the speakers are women, but the audience are mixed. And then she said, like, it's not about, like, if you have, like, sexual harassment. It's about, like, when you had that. And I said, like, are you crazy? She's 50-something. And I know her. She's super smart. She's actually originally British. And I said, like, okay, you know what, Justin? We're doing an event about that. The community brought a topic. So we brought Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom, Handelsblatt, Bild Magazine, Axel Springer, all the top people. And you know the reason, by the way, because they were, like, super slow. But they will do it next time. And it was Sebastian. Yeah. But she was the one that actually pushed Sebastian to come. But so we did event. Okay, so the event were, like, the ladies, and we didn't speak about that, but we spoke about, like, tech. Okay, like, all of them investing in a lot of startups, and they search for which kind of technology. So for the community, it was like, okay, Axel Springer searching, Bild Magazine searching for this and that kind of startup to invest in. Also, Wired Magazine, which is very, very strong startup in magazine, and they shared what they are searching for. So eventually, people went out with a network, with connection that potentially they start a perfect investment for those giant that they probably will never meet in different situations. But then we tap into diversity, and each one of them spoke about their personal story, like what she had. So the speakers are really key players, but the audience are really, like, we had, like, partner from Ernst & Young, so we had, like, a lot of perspective in the audience. So we always said, like, it's kind of like a salon. Eventually, the value is the right network that actually will make your startup to grow. That's the bottom line. If you don't have that, probably next time you won't come. It's bullshit. Okay, it was very nice. That's it. But nice, it's not something that will take me out of my home in the evening and leave my kids and so on.
Or bring your kids. Or bring your kids.
Or bring my kids. No, it's not.
It's the next level.
Actually, I'm taking my daughter for a lot of events. But this is actually also the reason that we are building the fund, be not as a network or a middleman, but be a really strong influence for Unbar, because if you investing, you can support or influence in diversity and so on, and we will invest in venture capital, so you understand it's kind of like a huge umbrella. So I think it's answering your question, but, like, actually you bring the right people. The curating event, it's the most important thing. So everyone that's in the room and say, like, you speak to that one. You have to speak with her, because they don't know each other, but I know how much she needs her and the opposite.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I think now, especially, community is becoming kind of a buzzword, and everyone is doing something, and they have their group, and social media kind of, about everything that's happening, all these events. And I think, like you said, kill the noise. There's so much noise. And I think that's why community is becoming a bit more exclusive now. And you can see also some of the things that I'm putting together, and all of us, I think, are part of different ones. But even around the tech conferences, we were just talking about Slush in Helsinki. It's this whole cult club that goes there. And, it's so many more exclusive communities now. And the idea behind it, I think, is just what you're saying. The value is the people that you're connecting, that if I just go to a random event or meetup, it's not as curated for me. And this way, the group is really exclusively just who is relevant for me, and I don't have to waste time. I just come and I meet the right people, talk about the right topics, and I think that's the trend, at least that I'm seeing in where I'm working, a lot more exclusivity. Okay, so September. Mali.
We're trying to be European, so we're on our time border, so
yeah.
We'll have a bit more time for networking. So let's.
I'll just say it in 2 sentences. So we had one island, 3 hours sail from Amsterdam, 500 people, 80% international, all tech related. Unconference, I think you guys have heard of that before. It was kind of invented in Israel. And a lot of we had the military, we had circus acts, and it ended with a decentralized dance party with dancing bananas. That's all I'm gonna say. We can talk about it
Great
later.
stories.
It's all people.
Add something before we close, Lisa?
Thank you.
I think there was another question.
Great. Yeah, you want to ask another question? So last question, everybody's okay with us going overboard with like another 3-4 minutes? The quiet means only one more question,
Yeah.
okay?
It's very short. It's very short. I'm Ari. I work at a SaaS company and I deal with new sales development. And we noticed that all over Europe, people, they're very, very active with LinkedIn, except Germany. So we've been able to penetrate all of the countries except Germany. How do we start off a connection with someone without LinkedIn?
Facebook.
LinkedIn is my best friend. First of all, Germany, by far, LinkedIn. Yes, we have Xing. Okay, we have like
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I need to think on exactly.
I know this thing, but it's in German.
Terrible. Like I'm working with them, but like it's terrible infrastructure or like interface. So the German that you really want to meet, they will be on LinkedIn. The German that you don't want to meet, it will be on Xing because they are like working only with German. If you don't speak German, they will never work with you. They will never feel the confidence, and you will never be accepted. So Xing, it's a great, like I'm there and I'm zero active there. So like it's not okay. Like Germany is working with LinkedIn. I'm doing everything via LinkedIn.
But I have to ask, do you connect like people who don't know about LinkedIn and it comes from there?
Yes, new sales development. That means cold, getting in contact with people that they have no idea who I am, and starting it off. With all of Europe, it works except Germany.
Okay, so this is the cold.
Yes, that's the
This is the culture.
Yeah.
That's the culture. Like, actually, we have a lot of discussion about that. Cold emails supposed to be not cold or whatever. Find the right way to approach them. This is another discussion, but that's the problem, not the LinkedIn users or not.
I just said, so a lot of the Germans that I work with, at least in my company, they do have a LinkedIn page, but they're not as active, or like they would never obviously respond, not to a cold message or not to even someone that they know, because they're just not active on LinkedIn. They have a LinkedIn page, but they're not active. They are on LinkedIn 100%, and it's also my best friend when I work, when I'm working with everyone within my company. But unlike Americans, they're just not there, like they won't read it. Something that I sometimes do when I try to reach out to people, even within my own company, within Germany, is I just look at mutual friends. I mean, I look at mutual connections. I go to that person, hey, you know that person, can you help me get in touch with them? And then when it's through them, like that.
I would think that I asked because I am surprised to hear that it works without that strategy.
It does.
In the US,
Much, really good question and very relevant. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you, the amazing panel. Can we have another round of applause to? Thank you, Mari, for helping us arrange this event. And thank you guys for coming in and enjoying and being quiet and asking great questions. And hope to see you in our next events. And have a great night. You can continue networking and have fun. Thank you.